Hey everyone, it's Glitchy here, and before we start this video, I want to let you in on a little secret to how I run this channel. Basically, every single week I try to make a new video, either reviewing something that I have been playing throughout the week, and if I can't, then usually I just stream. But I also don't try to force videos out unless I really want to make them, so this week I've been playing a shit ton of Marathon once again. But this time I was mostly prepping for the eventual release of the last map being Cryo Archive, which at the time of this recording, it has finally just ended its first weekend. Now, I haven't ever done a video where I revisit something like a specific addition to a game before, like either DLC or a new season, or in this case, a new map. But with Cryo coming out, I genuinely do not think there has been a map that an FPS centric company has released that has made me obsessed with something even more than I already was. So I almost felt like I was forced to come back and make a video about it, since Bungie actually recommended reviewers to wait for Cryo to release and for them to play it before they actually release their reviews. Obviously I didn't wait, but I also figured if this was this revolutionary, then I can always make another video on it. So let me welcome you to a cold Cryo Archive review. So Cryo Archive is probably one of the best experiences I've had in gaming in quite a while. The hype surrounding this map inside of the Marathon community has been pretty fucking intense. And to start, Bungie started an ARG, which, to be honest, I'm not smart enough to explain exactly how it was solved, but it took a week after starting for everyone to get through the 7 puzzles on a website so that we could finally access the map. Then after that, it was basically announced that the map would be dropping on the 20th, which, I'll be completely honest, I almost feel like the wait was a little too long for this map in specific. This game is not as hot as it definitely could have been if this had released like a week ago, which Marathon really is not getting the love it genuinely deserves, and I know this game definitely wasn't made for everyone, but I honestly didn't think it was made for me when I first play it. But Cryo, by itself, has had its grasp on me tightly, and it's only been out for a singular weekend. There is something about Cryo's progression that is absolutely addicting to take in. The way the gameplay loop works in Cryo is basically you spawn into your own corner of the map with your squad, then you work your way through that small corner so you can get into the center of the map and wreak havoc for everyone else. This isn't the only part though, since you always have to keep your eye on your security clearance in this map, which you raise by killing commanders as well as looting around the map for security tags that the commanders, as well as just spawning in naturally, drop. Which this is an absolutely genius system for a way to make it so the players are forced to engage with enemies at all time, always making noise. And I have no idea how many times I have heard players from quite a ways away just working their way to the giant main room of Cryo, which makes for an interesting playstyle since it is basically a rush from all the teams that spawn to see who can get into the main room first so they can set up and make sure they're ready and have the advantage against all the other teams on the map. This map is also an extreme high roller play and is the first introduction of the ante system in Marathon, which is basically a guaranteed way to force players to bring in some pretty good shit, making players bring in 5,000 credits worth of gear, and even the playing field, and for the most part, make sure those that solo queue this map and get paired with randoms at the very least know that you won't be the only one losing some hard-earned shit in the process. Which, as someone who frequently solos Marathon and loves to load in with free kits to make some ungodly amounts of profit, makes this map a very different experience. And in my review for the full game, I mentioned how little I had played of Outpost, and that is now the exact opposite case. I have only been queuing Outpost and just abused the fuck out of the conveyance request and usually just carry randoms up the lift. But that isn't what we're here to talk about today. Cryo as a whole is easily the best map in the game, and it's only available for the weekend. Plus, I won't even be able to cover everything in Cryo since I haven't been able to experience things like all the different vaults, as well as the compiler boss fight, but I will talk about what it's like just to be able to see this experience unfold as it was in the community, as well as just knowing these things are lurking inside of the marathon. But I genuinely do not think Bungie is able to be beaten in the regard of what they have shown they are capable of with this map. Bungie is absolute experts with raid mechanics as well as PvP, and they have shown how flawlessly they can merge those two things together with this map. Cryo has a bunch of different vaults around the map where you need a specific set of keys to be able to get in, and they are all numbered in order, and they're easily the rarest keys in the game, with the last vault key being the highest tier rarity, which is red. I have a good amount of these keys, and I haven't been able to load in with my own team, so I haven't used any of them, but I don't even know if I'd be confident enough to use them with a squad if I did have one. And at the time of recording this, I have only had one successful run of Cryo where I had random teammates where we actually wiped the entire lobby, which means we were completely safe to roam around since rooks can't spawn inside of Cryo, and you aren't even able to queue solos inside of this map either. So it's either you queue with randoms or you find some people to run with you, which is a real hit or miss kind of system, especially since a lot of people queuing in are going to be running free kits for the first weekend or just want to experience the map at least once. Which, let me tell you, this might be a casual review, but Cryo is easily the most hardcore experience inside of Marathon and potentially any extraction shooter on the market. Tarkov might have stuff like labs, and I can't personally talk about the gameplay there, but there is no map in any game that has made me feel like Cryo has. I shit you not, the run where I was actually able to get out, my entire inventory was filled with purples and blues, and I was shaking with excitement. No other game I have ever played has been able to bring this kind of reaction. The only other time I have felt like this was when I finally got a day one clear on Destiny 2, which was Root of Nightmares for Lightfall. And I can't imagine the fucking hype getting into a vault or even getting deeper into the marathon and fighting the compiler, or the absolute dread of getting that far just to lose absolutely everything right at the very end. The way Bungie has merged all of this feeling of PvE with the constant threat of PvP is genuinely fucking addicting to me. I have been playing Marathon almost non-stop since the last video I made about it. I wish I had more people to play it with. There is so much to talk about with Cryo when it comes to the actual feeling of the map. But I want to talk about how the map looks, and if you're already a subscriber, you already know that I have an affinity for cold areas in games and what usually goes into the design of them. Areas like Europa and Destiny 2 are easily my favorite, and I could feel so much of that design philosophy here in Cryo Archive. There are so many areas that are frozen over, and in the center of the map, it looks like the entirety of Cryo exists specifically to cool this giant thing that almost looks like a super processor for the ship. Seeing all the pods of people and even some animals adds to the vibe of the map as well as the storytelling, which is funny because as we're invading, we're basically murdering all of the defenders of these innocent civilians, which have not been woken up yet to populate the planet of Tau Ceti. All of the different spawns feel extremely unique when you're loading in before you get to really explore, making it so if you truly run this map all the time, you will actually figure out the best way to clear rooms and get to the center of Cryo much quicker. There is a level of mastery you have to have of the game to be able to come to Cryo and get any success at all. You absolutely will lose all of your shit if you go into this map and just run it down over and over and over again. But even then, I guarantee you will probably find yourself wanting to queue another one anyway. The rush you get just loading in and exploring is an adrenaline high I cannot describe accurately through words. Getting security tags as well adds to the high, since the quicker you collect, the further you can progress into the map, adding to that mastery and the adrenaline loop you put yourself through in Cryo. But slowing down, if you have a moment, you can see that Bungie has spent a lot of time making sure that this map is as confusing as possible for newer people. while being a lot easier to learn with repetition. There aren't a lot of places on the map where you can clearly say where you are besides in the middle of the map, which is the largest room here. The rest of Cryo is extremely close quarters, being made of almost only hallways and vents, having very little large rooms besides the named areas on the map. Otherwise, communication is going to be key during PvE and especially during PvP, often being the straw that breaks the camel's back when it comes to losing encounters in Cryo. I can count on a single hand how many times I have loaded in on Cryo and no one has talked back to me when I speak in team chat asking if anybody has a mic. However, there have been endless runs that I have had where people have not communicated effectively, and it has been the absolute end of runs, and I have lost literally everything because of it. I think this map at some point is absolutely going to only be the sweatiest players, where even the worst people won't even want to try to load in, and since they don't want to risk the anti-loot being lost, especially since now there is a ranked mode that is going to cycle every weekend as well, which I have been playing, and I probably won't do a video on ranked by itself since it is literally just sweatier versions of all the base game maps right now. But Cryo and ranked are two completely separate experiences that are calling to the exact same set of players. I love both, and I have been having a blast in both, where it finally feels like there is a way to experience the game with a better set of players instead of being restricted to people who only run free loadouts, especially as someone who primarily solo queues Marathon. But even watching people play this map and experience what probably 1% of the player base is going to see for themselves is wild. I want nothing more than to be able to go and do the compiler boss fight for myself, and there is no way I will not be grinding for keys as well as finding my way to that boss room, which Bungie has masterfully locked behind the 6 vault keys as well as a little bit of RNG to get tokens that will unlock the last vault so you can go fight the first boss in Marathon's history. And of course, I mean the new version of Marathon, since this boss is actually just a base enemy in the original trilogy, which is kind of funny to think that what is this huge threat to the runners is just another guy's squishiest enemy. But I think this is basically going to cover all I have to say about the map. I really want to stream some more Marathon in the future since I have been having a shit ton of fun, but I really want to hear what you guys might think of Cryo Archive and maybe even Ranked if you've been playing that. But if you'd be so kind, then could you please leave a like and maybe even subscribe if you want to see more content like this. So I'll see you guys when I see you. This is Glitchy, signing off.